Who goes there? That nightmare again. I need a drink.
Fine, do what you want. I'm just trying to reason.
You're awake, Mr. Pierce. How do you feel?
Did I sleep long?
The day's only starting. It's fine.
How's our fugitive? Dr. Fuller hasn't reported your disappearance to the force, but that'll come soon.
Bradley?
Who else would it be?
Mr. Pierce, are you all right? You look like you saw a ghost.
There are things I can't explain.
Tell us. What happened?
What I'm sure of now is that the Hawkins case isn't just an accident.
And what brings you to that conclusion?
The fact that Charles Hawkins survived the fire.
I don't understand. Mr. Hawkins was buried.
That's what he would have you believe.
I have a hard time believing you.
You were there, Bradley. You even opened fire on him.
I'd remember that.
Why would he fake his own death? Do you think he covered up his wife's murder?
That's possible.
Seems hard to swallow. Don't you have anything more concrete, Pierce?
Bradley, what do you remember?
I don't understand your question.
The night we went into the Hawkins mansion. You don't seem to remember the tunnels and what occurred there.
No memory of going down any tunnel. No, we were in the manor, then,
Then what?
The rest is quite blurry. I don't recall how I came back home.
And then?
I went to visit you at the hospital, and called on Marie's help to get you released.
And you don't remember the events of the tunnel?
I don't. Let's talk about something else.
I heard you talking earlier.
Why am I not surprised?
I get the impression you two don't get along.
Intrusive and not very clever. Anyway, let's get back to the business at hand.
Dr. Fuller seems to be leaving a trail of corpses. Not to mention those strange machines, chains, and tools of all kind.
Yes. I've been telling you that Fuller uses his patients as guinea pigs.
What I saw was more akin to torture than medicine.
Do you even hear what you're saying? Dr. Fuller is highly respected.
It's the truth, Ethan. And I'll prove it to you. I'm listening, Mr. Pierce.
I found a file bearing Sarah Hawkins' name in the Institute's basement.
It makes sense. A powerful family like the Hawkins had the means to hide such a disgrace.
But everyone knows the Fullers have been taking care of the Hawkins for at least a generation. And all were aware of Mrs. Hawkins' fragility.
Perhaps, but no one would allow a psychiatric internment.
From what I read in the file, Fuller used her as a subject of his experiments.
Francis Sanders and Sarah Hawkins, subjects of Dr. Fuller. Why those two?
Given the energy he pours into Riverside, I presume it was Fuller's creation.
His father's, to be correct. He was a surgeon on board the Scylla. He founded the hospital in 1904 with funds from the Hawkins family before he died and his son Thomas Fuller took over.
Two families inextricably linked.
Most island families are that way. Captain Fitzroy's father was also a seaman aboard the Scylla.
Powerful families dominating everything.
Yes, And as you could tell, Dr. Fuller is like some crazed emperor.
He wouldn't be happy if he knew we were snooping around.
I know the risks. I don't fear him. Do you wish to know anything else?
I have flashbacks. They haunt me.
What did they do to you?
There was that Dr. Fuller, and a nurse. Blood everywhere. My legs, the pain, I couldn't bear it. I was screaming. They injected me with something. I woke up at the Institute. Bradley was there.
And how you scared us. You seemed demented.
You likely woke up during the anesthesia. No wonder those memories haunt you. What in God's name were they doing to you?
What happened afterwards?
When I woke up the second time, I was in a padded cell. That's where you found me, Doctor. After you released me, I got a good look at what's in store for the patients of the Riverside Institute. Hallucinogenic gas pumped into the cells. An infernal machine. Horrific medical experiments.
Impossible. Dr. Fuller would never do such a thing.
You should believe it, Ethan. What Mr. Pierce saw is precisely what I've been trying to prove. Did you discover anything else?
I met a Francis Sanders. Do you know him?
Of course, he's a patient. Or was. I haven't seen him since Dr. Fuller had him transferred to the basement.
He knew Sarah Hawkins, and that's what killed him.
What? How did he die?
I'm not sure I can explain it.
Tell me how Mr. Sanders died.
I didn't see what, but something was there, with us.
Of what do you speak?
Sanders said it was Sarah Hawkins' visitor. He spoke of it like a living being.
Sarah Hawkins? Have I missed something here? This makes no sense. I don't see how it can help crack the Hawkins case.
You really think she's involved? How could she have murdered Mr. Sanders?
Francis Sanders mentioned Mrs. Hawkins just before dying. It's no coincidence.
You know, Francis Sanders was a well-known art collector. I guess you can still pay a visit to his wife, Irene Sanders.
An art collector, you say? That's probably how they met.
If you plan on having dinner at the Sanders household, please spare the widow the tale of her late husband's suffering.
I don't agree. She deserves the truth.
But that truth may be biased. We don't know the bottom of it.
You're right. Without a plausible explanation for what I saw, let's not jump to conclusions.
That seems wise indeed.
Very well. I'll go to see Francis's widow. Perhaps I'll find a link between her husband's death and Sarah Hawkins.
Don't end up in the hospital this time.
I'll do my best.
The other night's events are still confused in my head.
Let us go now and learn the truth about what's happening on this island.
What can I do for you, sir?
Mrs. Sanders? I'm a private detective. We must talk about your husband and his ties to Sarah Hawkins. Can I come in?
You may. However, before we go any further, please know that my husband died yesterday.
That is precisely what brings me here.
Well, well. Look who's here. You know each other?
Our paths crossed, briefly. The brave detective has a talent for sticking his nose into my business.
I bump into her every time I'm investigating someone's death.
It's a small island, Detective. My island. It's better that it's you bumping into me.
You're investigating Francis' death. Why? Who hired you?
I spoke to Francis before he died. His story suggests a link to a case I'm working on.
Well, since this business has got nothing to do with me, I'll be in your husband's office, Irene. We'll carry on later.
Very well, Miss Baker. This way, Mr. Pierce. And do make yourself comfortable. It would seem that you have much to tell me. May I inquire as to when you had the opportunity to talk to my husband?
Yesterday. I met him at the hospital. He spoke to me about Sarah Hawkins.
Oh, of course he spoke to you about her. That's all he talked about. Sarah Hawkins and her paintings. Please forgive my tone. The fact is that I have not been allowed to see him since he was interned. You, on the other hand, a perfect stranger, were able to see him and even talk with him the day he died. How was he? Were you present when he had this attack? What happened?
What happened to your husband is terrible, Mrs. Sanders. But from what I saw, it was inevitable. The man I met yesterday had lost his reason. He suffers no longer, if you would allow me such a platitude.
Of course. Thank you for your kind words. Nobody in that hospital would have deigned to speak them to me. However, it will require more than that to soothe my mind. I need to understand. How could this happen? In a reputed institute? And right before your eyes? Did you not do anything to help him?
It's terrible what happened to your husband, but I had nothing to do with it. I was injured, and I came across him in the hospital quite by chance.
Injured? Well, I'm delighted to see you in such fine fettle, Detective. Not everybody enjoyed such a prompt recovery.
I suppose Fuller does do miracles now and again.
Luck is obviously very kind to you. Oh, I'm tired, Mr. Pierce. I would be grateful if you could tell me what you expect of me, and then leave.
Did your husband talk to you about Sarah Hawkins' visitor? A shambler, to use his precise terms.
Well, you can't imagine that's all he talked about. It's exhibited at the center of the gallery. No better place for the painting that endowed him with the privilege of such a shameful and miserable end to his life.
Hold on. The Shambler is a painting by Sarah Hawkins.
Who else to paint such horrors? Take a look for yourself, if you feel so inclined.
It is my only lead at this stage. I suppose I have nothing to lose.
Then you have paid no heed. For my part, I refuse to set foot in that gallery again. But if you're so eager to see it...
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders. I won't be long. The day the Shambler came into the Sanders' lives. A house of artists. A house of artists. Frances Sanders and Sarah Hawkins were close. Friends, even? Sanders' accession register. He wrote beside the Shambler, "Finally." What did Sarah Hawkins fear so much that she didn't want to sell the painting? A house of artists. He finally won. Was Sanders aware of his imminent doom? He didn't want Sanders to have the painting. She must have felt devastated. Was she jealous of Sarah Hawkins? The Shambler. I need to see it. Did she really care for him after all? Let's see what this cylinder has to say once it's inserted in a phonograph.
Irene, I made a mistake. I fear that it might be too late for me. Nobody should enter. Except to burn everything. I never had the courage. Pay somebody to do it. He's inside my head. I see him behind my eyelids. Each time I shut my eyes. hold him back. Forgive me.
That accursed gallery. Those accursed paintings. That accursed Sarah.
Irene, I made a mistake. I fear that it might be too late for me. Nobody should enter, except to burn everything. I never had the courage. Pay somebody to do it. He's inside my head. I see him behind my eyelids each time I shut my eyes.
A strange Amerindian pendant. I could use one of those. Strange. For months, Sarah Hawkins refused to part with her painting, to finally give it away for nothing.
That's twice you've stepped on my toes, Detective. Try not to make a habit of it.
I've got a lot of bad habits.
Some can be more fatal than others. What have you come looking for in this gallery?
I have a well-off client in Boston who heard about the death of Francis Sanders and wanted me to size up his estate before making an offer to his widow.
Perfect, Detective. The pretext? The body language? I would have bought it if it was the first time I'd seen your face. You're a good talker, Pierce. Your story will do for the moment.
And you? What brings you to the Sanders home?
I'm here on business. Irene asked me to liquidate all these paintings. She doesn't intend to hang around here for long.
Why you?
Believe it or not, there aren't many collectors on Darkwater. It needs someone with a network, and a means of transport to the mainland. A choice that comes down to Fitzroy and me. And I'm far more pleasant, wouldn't you say?
These artifacts date from pre-Columbian times. These artifacts date from pre-Columbian times. The public entrance to the gallery. The man transforms an entire wing of his manor into an art gallery. What the hell was that? Maybe I can use this dagger. Damn it! This dagger looks different.
What's the matter with you? You sure you won't be needing that hand? You're losing it, Detective. At this rate, you're right. The bottle will get you before I do.
You didn't see anything.
I saw you within an inch of putting a dagger through your forearm. Did I miss something more interesting?
I was attacked by a creature. I pushed it back, I think.
I think so too.
I ran, screamed, broke a pane of glass. You were in the next room and you didn't hear a thing.
If I hadn't heard a thing, I'd still be in the other room. The door was blocked. I got in as soon as I could. I like to look after my goods.
You mean me?
Don't flatter yourself, sweetheart. I'm talking about the contents of this gallery. And by the way, where do you think you're going with that dagger?
It saved my life. It's an extraordinary dagger.
You should talk to Algernon Drake. He's an antique dealer here on Darkwater. He'll tell you all about it. From what I saw in the ledgers, it was him who sold it to Sanders.
It's not your style to give me free information like that.
Take it as payment for being my canary. A simple trade-off. Now go see your antique seller. I still got things to settle with Irene.